Welcome back. Welcome back, everyone. Episode 7, Lucky 7. I am elated. So glad to be here. The Cure, guys. The Cure. Robert Smith. You know this jam. You love this jam. We're talking 1987. 1987, I was 12 years old.
Show me how you do that trick. The one that makes me scream, she said. The one that makes me laugh, she said. Threw her arms around my neck. Show me how you do it, and I promise that I'll run away with you. I'll run away with you.
You know what, guys? The first time I heard this, I was deep into rap. Loved rap. That's all of NWA. And I was really just kind of mono-focused on that type of music. And one of my best friends, Kevin Correa, who I miss dearly. Man, it takes me back. It takes me back. So Kevin was a great friend, is a great friend. I haven't spoken to Kevin in a little bit, but I do check on him from time to time. We've got some mutual friends, and I always like to make sure he's okay. And I bring him up because the first time I was exposed to this type of music, I mean, it was really, again, it was either rap, or like really heavy metal, that punk rock kind of music really wasn't out there. The Ramones, it was out there, but really, it was an older generation, and the Cure kind of brought in this mainstream and almost like a cult following. Thank you, The Cure, Robert Smith, for that. Appreciate that. Great music, great tunes. So anyway, back to the point, guys. Welcome, and I was just telling you guys about my experience first time listening to this type of music, and it really opened up. Really, you become fixated, and you tend to listen to the same thing over and over again. And even as a kid, you kind of fall into either a category or a certain brand of music. And in this case, again, like I mentioned, it was Jen. I remember her putting in the cassette. And I won't lie to you guys, my buddy's sister, she was real cute, Crush, right? So she puts this on in the living room, and it was the first time I heard it, and immediately I was kind of just sucked in, and it really did. It was one of those points you remember in your life where something kind of takes a direction, and that was really what opened me up to just music in general. I've always been a fan of classic rock, and I'm in my 40s, so I've been around for a little bit. You kind of humbled when growing up, it was always B101, and it was like Frank Sinatra and Fred Astaire, like all those old, Dancing in the Rain kind of things. Now the classic rock station is playing stuff that was, number one when I was in high school. So you kind of, you go with the times, and you realize the music changes. But the genre and like to just for me. I love music in general, guys, and I'm sure you do as well. Like, it's just, for me, it's the fruit of everything, and I'd love to even, my intros are so important to me because I really like to make the music substance to the time period and the way it affected me in my life, and what kind of just influence, you know what I mean? Influence, because music is very influential. And back then, there was the music wars, guys. It wasn't about Twitter. And if someone had something to say about music, chances are they were on the news. It's moms against, whatever, rap, moms against rock. It was the Marilyn Manson haters. If you listen to Marilyn Manson, you believed in the devil, and it was just, again, the lady. If Lady Gaga had come out back then, it would have, you know what I mean. It was no different. It was just that Lady Gaga, obviously, was in a different society, a more tolerable society. It wasn't about I mean, again, people like Madonna, those influences, the Cyndi Laupers of the world, they always went to the extreme. Elton John, they would always go to the extreme of their character or of their brand, and they would, tend to always draw a really big crowd. And that seems to be the catch all along. I mean, you get 69, the rapper. I mean, and Post Malone. That's another good example of like somebody current. And these guys got these tattoos all over their faces. You know what I mean? And granted, they may mean something to them, or it might express some type of I don't know, struggle or conquering in their life. But I mean, I got to imagine that does it get attention? Does it get more followers? I don't know. To me, it's kind of scary looking. You know what I mean? And to each his own, man. I just tattoos on the face. You know what I mean? That's for me. That's kind of over the top. But back to 1987. Funny. I remember seeing this, and again, like I always tell you guys, I do a little research, before the show, and I like to make everything kind of flow and influence. And this happened to be January 22nd of 1987. Pennsylvania treasurer Bud Doyer, he shot himself with a revolver during a television press conference. If you guys have never seen this, you got to YouTube it. It's the most oddest thing you'll ever see in your life. I remember seeing it. I think I was watching. I think VH1 had some kind of special like the 80s, and it went through the whole every year of the 80s, the decade, and this was part of it. And this guy, during the press conference, he was the Pennsylvania treasurer, and then he was guilty on bribery, fraud, conspiracy, and racketeering. So the guy was probably going to go to jail for the rest of his life, and then probably that racketeering thing, maybe mob related. But anyway, the guy blew his head off on television. It was the craziest thing I've ever seen. Really realize somebody in their desperation to do something like that. It just blows your mind. So if you have a chance, YouTube it, check it out. Just absolutely crazy. That something like that would happen. I mean, so, I only mention stuff like that because, we're so almost desensitized to, the things that are happening around us almost every day. You know what I mean? Like, it's almost, you're not surprised, that's a shame for all of us to not be surprised when events like this take place, like just, the amount of violence, needlessly that's kind of going on. And, also, in 1987, the second Unabomber bomb explodes in Salt Lake City computer store, injuring the owner. That's crazy, that whole Unabomber thing. That was amazing. That went on for a really, really long time. Eazy-E's first song came out, Boys in the Hood. That was released. Cool, 1987. Pope John Paul II arrived in Los Angeles for a 2-day poppy visit. Poppy visit. His first one ever to the city, where he makes an arrival day speech to local leaders and U.S. Entertainment industry. Imagine that, like 1987. I remember, maybe because of my culture and the way we were brought up, but Portuguese culture is very Catholic. I would, if I had to put a more defined Roman Catholic, you know what I mean? We believe in the statues and the church, and the priest is, he's your gateway to God. And and I always remember these events with the Pope and Pope John Paul II specifically. I mean, we had plates hanging on the wall with him on it and his face. And I remember it being a very, very big event. I remember the family talking about it, gathering, and making it a real big deal about these visits, regardless of where they were. And I remember even like Easter and watching it in the Vatican, and it was always telecasted, and I believe it was like Channel 20, the Portuguese channel. They would always broadcast it, so we always used to watch it. But I to the point, anyways, I remember how it was a big deal, with the Pope was coming, and it's amazing to see that, in these years, the fact that like what is Catholicism today? I only ask that in the United States, because if you look at other parts of the world, Catholicism is strong. I mean, maybe because they're not as sensitive to the things that we are and have been experiencing, with all the allegations and all the criminal charges that have been brought up against the Catholic Church, and you got bishops hiding things, cardinals hiding things, priests hiding things, and it's amazing to me that any other company in the world could never survive that. Really, no, there's no entity in the world. Apple Computer is probably one of the most. I believe it did. If I'm not mistaken, I believe it's currently the most valuable company in the world. And if God rest his soul, Steve Jobs. You know what I mean? If someone came up and said, "Hey, listen, Steve Jobs molested me," and all of a sudden, hundreds of kids are coming out and saying that Steve Jobs molested them, could you imagine? Could Apple Computer would a company like Apple Computer, could they survive that? Could they continue to exist as an entity in the world? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I think that they would absolutely cease to exist. I think the world would try to extinguish and abolish any remnants of it, and move on, because again, you can forgive for a lot. You can forgive a lot of things, but to children, I think that's across the board. I think we can all agree on that, regardless of what side you're on. There is no compromise. So I only mention that, and again, I apologize to Apple for being the example in there, but I just considering Apple is probably the most valuable in the world, and again, here you got Catholicism, you've got the Vatican, you've got an amazing amount of money that has to cycle, I would imagine, through that Vatican to keep it functioning, and to house all those priests and bishops and the maintenance of that place, the guards. I can't even fathom what the cost is to run that Vatican, and somehow they continue to exist and they continue to operate. And again, I apologize to all my Catholic friends out there, and anybody who has strong beliefs in religion. For me, if you asked me, I would say yes. My beliefs are my baseline beliefs are Catholic. Nothing has ever been said to me otherwise that would make me want to go to a different religion. Between us, just between us, I was considering Buddhism. I think that's a religion that is more in line with my beliefs, and what I believe. Fundamentally is its base pillar is everything that is alive has a purpose, and I believe that. I truly believe that wholeheartedly. That everything that is on this planet has a purpose, is here for a reason. So with that, who knows? What's to say I don't pursue that? But right now in my life, it's I'm pretty fulfilled. I'm happy. I got a great career. I got a beautiful family. Thank God that thank God that we are all healthy. We're enjoying this journey. I'm here. I'm talking to you guys. We're having a great conversation. The podcast continues to grow. The platform is getting larger. I personally have decided, maybe moving forward, that I need to have a little more structure in the podcast. I really appreciate to everyone out there. Shout out Po' Boy Podcast, Paycheck and Red. Really great information from these people. They tell you how it is. I've been complimented on the quality of the audio of the podcast. And fundamentally, from what I understand, that's number one. And everything else comes after that. Quality of the audio is paramount. If I don't sound right or good to you, then you're gonna either turn it off or you're gonna listen to something else. So I was really happy to hear that. And so for me, it's really about really structuring my content and what is the message I want to deliver to you. My last podcast was over 2 hours. A lot of it was me rambling and just kind of venting out. I had a lot of, and I know we had a short week and there was a lot that happened, and I really wanted to cover a lot, but ultimately, I want to make it mean something. And if I can, finesse and make this a little more structured and more quality for you as the listener, and that's what I want to do. And I will do whatever it is I can do to make that happen. So with that said, the first, this is funny. First 1987, the first National Coming Out Day is held in the celebration of the Second National March in Washington for lesbians and gay rights. Fantastic, right? 1987. Guys, this has been going on for a long time. It almost seems like, right now that, gays, lesbians, LGBT community, that they are just now getting, this has been going on for a while, man. This has been a fight for them for a long time. And hats off to everyone out there, gay, lesbian, whatever your preference is. I'm a strong believer that, hey, listen, get out there, find somebody you love and be miserable like the rest of us. It shouldn't matter. It shouldn't have to be a man and a woman, right? We all deserve to be miserable. So find your partner out there. Find the person that's willing to put up with your bullshit every day. Find the person that's willing to deal with, your quirks. Somebody that you value, somebody that values you, and you'll be happy for the rest of your life. Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? Who cares? Life is too short. I keep telling you guys this. You only get so many revolutions around the sun, and why waste it? Concerned about what other people think. What other people think about you and what you're doing. What? I think, and I know this. If you can find, that it's inside you. Everyone has it. Everybody has it. Everyone has it because I have it and I found it. And I know that you can find it. It's somewhere inside you. Somewhere in there, inside, but it's buried. It's buried by appointments. It's buried by schedules. It's buried by the clock. It's buried by work. It's buried by doctor's appointments and bills and responsibilities and all of those things. It's deep in there. But somehow, if you can get through all that, if you can just kind of just prioritize what's in your way, like a crowded garage. You open the door in a garage and you look in and just shit's piled up everywhere. If you took the time to take all that shit, get rid of what you don't need. Get rid of it. You don't need it. Get rid of it. Clear your mind. And then neatly place everything that you care about and want in your life, and place it neatly in a row and systematically, and line that all up in your brain. Then I promise you guys, there's a doorway. There is a door. You can't see it now because it's all crowded, but there is a door. And if you can make it to that door and you open that door, I promise you guys, the promised land is on the other side. It is. And I'm not making this up. I found it. I know where it is. I spent a lot of time in my life stressing, always doing things that was in someone else's best interest. And I'm not talking about family, guys. Let's exclude family. Let's talk about you as an individual, me as Bobby Couto, and I found myself, and I'm going to use this term. I found myself successful. I got into, real quick. I was working at Gold Medal Bakery. I was working at a bakery in an overnight shift and like third shift. And if I've mentioned this before, I apologize. But like the long story short and end of it is, I couldn't work there. It was bread. I was falling asleep at the line. My beeper ended up in a bag of King Cullen in New York City. It was a big to-do, and we all agreed that I shouldn't be working there, and I moved on. It just really, anybody who can do that kind of job, man, hats off to you. For me, standing in one spot watching bread come down a conveyor, it didn't work out. But that motivated me. That motivated me to say, hey, listen, I got to put some structure in my life. I got to find a direction here where, whatever it may be, is it engineering? Is it electrical? Is it plumbing? Like, I had to find something. Like, it was getting to that point where I needed to start, focusing on one type of career. So I figured technology was really the direction I wanted to go in. So at that time, it was always my dream. It was always my dream to work at a company like what we know as Comcast today. Back then it was Media One, and that was the company that was, and it was like, you know what, the cable industry back then wasn't as monopolized as it is today. There were, most municipalities had their own cable companies. In this case, in Fall River, it was Media One, Bedford Media One. So I remember I was working at Alarm Computers. I was working at that alarm company. that I told you guys about last episode, and I had applied. I mean, I was actually going down to the cable office like every week. And I remember Delia. I got to the point where I knew her by first name. I was so committed. I knew that I didn't want to work at the alarm company anymore. I knew this. I knew that I didn't want to drive everywhere and not being paid and the idea that it was salary. It wasn't working for me. And I remember telling my wife, listen. If I can land this job with AT&T, well, at the time it was Media One, I said, if I can land this job, this is a lifelong career. Like, I can retire from this company. And, you could raise Megan, you could raise our daughter, and we wouldn't have to put her in daycare. I could make enough money that you could stay home, raise our daughter, and like, isn't that everybody's dream? So, I was really committed to that, going down every day, dropping off my application. Finally, I'll never forget this. I was in Connecticut. And not only was I in Connecticut, I remember this as vivid as what the day my kids were born. I received a phone call from Deb Zion. Shout out, Deb. And I was at, I won't even say their name, but it was an owner, one of the franchise owners for Dunkin' Donuts. And I mean, we're talking a mansion, guys. I went into the basement. The memorabilia, the New England sports memorabilia that was down there was like, museum quality. We're talking people, ridiculous amounts of money. Again, you guys know, I don't have to tell you. If you anybody who has Dunkin' Donuts in their area, you know that they're literally printing money. They got a product, they got a niche. I mean, they got me. I'm good for like 2 coffees a day. I average about 1, but I sometimes do 2, and so I'm guilty feeding that flame. But I was at this guy's house, and I was installing this alarm system. I'm looking around, and I'm saying to myself, man, how do you get here? Right? How do you get to this? How do you get to this point, man? Is it just being at the right place and at the right time, like knowing that somehow, Dunkin' Donuts is going to be like a McDonald's, it's going to be one of the largest, highest grossing franchises of all time? Really? Well, I mean, I guess, like Google, if you knew Google was going to be successful, then you probably did the right thing there, and you're probably laughing all the way to the bank now. But never had that foresight. But anyway, back to what I was saying. So I was at this house, and I remember the phone ringing. I looked down at the phone, and I want to say it said Comcast. Because I remember getting very excited, very nervous. And I remember running down the stairs and running out in the parking lot because I didn't want to have the conversation in the customer's house. And I ran out in the driveway and I answered the phone. I'm like, hi, yeah. And it was Deb. And she's like, hey, Mr. Couto, this is Deb. And just want to reach out to you. The same old thing. I want to offer you an interview. Want to come in, talk about it. And I said, yes. I was so excited. So right then and there, I knew. I said to myself, if I could get an interview, I knew that there was no way I was not going to get this job. Like I was in. I had this. It was mine. There was no way I was gonna lose this job. So I went for the interview, and my interview was with her. I had an interview with her, my first interview, and then she's like, "Hey, listen, would you mind waiting here?" She's like, "If I can get into the supervisor to actually interview you," she's like, "we might be able to make you an offer today." I'm like, I almost fell out of my chair, guys. Because this is like a dream come true for me. These are the things you talk about with your spouse, and you hope that you can have an opportunity to do something like this. And we're talking about a cable job, working in the cable industry, but to me, it was more than that. I knew what the work was. I knew it was like a brotherhood, and it was something that was really cool. Kind of like the electric company and the phone company. Like these guys are out there working, and whenever you think times of catastrophic events and catastrophes, and they're always there. You know what I mean? So they're kind of like the unsung heroes. But anyway, it was really exciting to me. So I ended up getting my second interview, and here's another shout out to Bob Couto, and he came in. Funny, what? Bob Couto was a fantastic individual. And even to this day, I think the world of him. He gave me the interview. We went through the process, and they made me the offer. I ended up getting the job, and fortunately for me, it was really the start of my career in the technology realm. And I still thank them very much for giving me that opportunity. It was really the first time that I felt like I was a part of something bigger than myself. Like really working in a company that large and on the cutting edge. I mean, the idea. Now, keep in mind, I had just had high-speed internet installed in my house for the first time. Up until then it was AOL, it was dial-up. You know what I mean? Like the crazy noises, the 246 kilobytes per second. I mean, I'm telling you guys, it was absolutely brutal. It was brutal to use the internet. Like it was I remember we had a website for our car club, Street Elite. And I remember we had like a house party to like inaugurate the website. And I remember, what the hell was his name? It doesn't matter. Our media guy, clicked the go button, like, because you had to type in the whole www, and you had to type it all in, streetelite.com, and he hit enter. And guys, honest to God, it took over 20 minutes for the first page to load. It was the most brutal thing, and we were clapping and we were happy and we were all excited about it. But so that just gives you just an idea of how slow the internet was. It was horrible. It was horrible. Nobody was online banking like this, guys. We're talking like the beginning of the internet here, like having access other than going to like a library. You know what I mean? Or working in a company that offered like a T1 system. So the idea that you were getting 25 megabytes per second. That was like. Yes, it was called the Roadrunner service, and the Roadrunner, the cartoon, that was the logo, and I had just had that installed in my house. So, like, the idea that I was going to be installing this in people's houses and I was going to learn about this technology, it was like super, super exciting. Again, I know today it really doesn't mean much, and it's kind of like old school, but then, man, this was some really cool shit. Like, I was really excited about getting this job. So. I ended up getting the job, and again, I don't want to get too far off on this, but I ended up getting the job, and I ended up training. They sent me to Beverly for 10 weeks of training. 10 weeks. They paid me 10 weeks. They taught me everything. Rich Andros, hats off to you, brother. He was my instructor. I think the world of him. There's a guy that had been with that company for a long time. Taught me a lot. Taught me a real lot. I spent a lot of time over there. In fact, him and I built the shack, the training shack. And you get the new hires in, and they pretend like they're tying onto a house. But I spent some time with him, and that was really like, I was into that job. I really was. I was all in. I had my van. I had everything set up. I was working at the South End. I had worked with some awesome people. To this day, I still talk to them. I mentioned Steve. I mentioned Joe. Both Steve and Joe worked for me when I was their supervisor. I mean, we had an amazing team. And everything was awesome. So anyway. Just taking a step back, Media One, it turned into AT&T. Like, life was great, man. We were getting incentives. We were getting all kinds of bonuses. If you sold this, you got this. If a customer kept this, like, it really was a motivating job. My buddy Lino Pavo, I miss him. I haven't seen Lino in a hell of a long time, and I really got to reach out to him and see how he's doing. But him and I worked together. We got along great. And we really complimented each other. We did a lot of great work, man. And you know what? Everybody held each other accountable. It was the kind of job where we were doing really good. Granted, the customer, your customer, okay, but we were doing work out there. Like, God forbid if I went to a house, right, and you were there before me, and you didn't replace the drop, and you knew the drop was bad. Like, that was a no-no. Like, you didn't leave that for the next guy. Like, if you were there and you realized something was bad, man, you didn't replace it, the customer's going to call back again, and you're going to have to go there. And chances are, like, if it was a sunny day that day, this day is probably pouring rain, and so now I got to replace this thing in the rain when you could have did it when it was a beautiful sunny day out. You know what I mean? So it was really, we were held to a standard, and that philosophy was fantastic. I mean, I 15 years. I spent 15 years in that company. Went through the acquisitions, and I mentioned, my manager, and I worked for her for a long, from day one, I was working for her, and I think it was TJ Lacey, and I think he's working for the state now, but he was the like the area manager, you know what I mean, like a district manager, and then Arlene reported to him. Uh, and he was kind of like a used car salesman, good guy, you know what I mean, never did anything to me. But I remember being in those meetings. You know, we'd have to go to a facility on Tuesdays and have like a meeting. And I remember going to those meetings, and then we'd hear him speak, and then Arlene would speak. And I remember her voice being so dynamic. You know, she was very vocal. You could respect the way that she spoke. You know, she really spoke in facts. So you really felt comfortable with what she was telling you. And you know, again, you're delivering a corporate message. You know, and when you're delivering a corporate message, sometimes it's always not always a good message. Sometimes you got to deliver some hard news. But she somehow, you know, she would find a way to deliver it. And until this day, I mirror a lot of the things that she used to do because it worked. It got my attention. You know, I was paying attention. You know, I know that everybody I knew was paying attention. And, you know, it's not to say that we were scared of Arlene, but nobody wanted to disappoint her. You know what I mean? She set the bar, and you know, there was an expectation that, you know, if you're going to show up here every day and you're going to put a belt on, you know, we're providing a good quality product to people. And within that, there are expectations. So, you know, we all knew what it was, and we always rose to the challenge. And again, we all got along. And even if we didn't get along, we got along. You know, everybody knew we were there for a purpose. And obviously, you know, if you got to get a paycheck, if you got to get your ass out of bed every day, you need the money. So, you know, you made it work. You made it work. But you know, a lot of brotherhood. You know, I miss it. I do. I miss it. You know, it's funny. If you guys have read the comments, speaking about Comcast, I told you guys before I was a technical trainer. I started as just a tech. You know, I was doing the technical work, the installations, and you know, I was a video tech, and then, you know, I was a video internet tech, and then a phone tech, and then of course all three services. Went through the whole process. My buddy Dave, worked with him for a long time. But over the whole extent of my career there was 15 years, and in the last 5 years of my career there was where kind of things really, you know, if anybody knows anything about corporations, I'm not sitting here pretending like I do, because I don't. But what I do know as a manager is that, you know, these corporations, these really large companies like the Comcast of the world, they all live on a five-year calendar. So for them, every 5 years, there's some type of change, whether it be, you know, the geographic locations and how they manage those geographic locations, you know, the top down method, the bottom up method, you know, employee first, management second, vice versa, customer first, employee second, the three pillars. You know, they go through all these different philosophies and ideas, and they keep changing it. You know, and I believe that in this industry, you need to do that. I believe that you have to constantly be purging and evolving, because if you don't, I mean, it's almost instant. You become irrelevant. You know what I mean? You become absolutely irrelevant. So Comcast is really good at that. You know, Comcast is really good at what they do, and they're really good at forecasting and really understanding how to maybe direct. Might be the right word. Direct people into doing what they think is the right way, or the right cause. But again, with that said, what looks good on paper doesn't necessarily look or work in the real world. You know, I mentioned to you guys a minute ago that, you know, we really had a real brother. It was a brotherhood. You know what I mean? I remember working late. You know, we were working a crazy late shift. Lino and I. One of the latest shifts was a 9 to 11. You could actually have us come to your house between 9 p.m. and 11 p.m. That was crazy. I remember that shift. That was a crazy shift, and we were working in some real sketchy parts of the city that we probably shouldn't have been working. But we did, man, and thank God we were okay, and we always had each other's back. But the point of me even bringing that up is there were times that we had guys out there that would run into jams, man, and we come out and help them out. You know, we looked out for each other, and you know, a lot of that changed when Comcast became automated. You know, originally you would call a dispatcher. There'd be somebody on the phone that you could talk to, and they would work the computer end. And a lot of times, I'd say like 80% of the problem really was always on the software side. You can go and do an install, and if the equipment that if the equipment wasn't staged properly at the warehouse, now you're sitting there and you're waiting and you're trying to get this thing to download its software, and and it takes forever and it takes patience. But back then I remember being able to call people, like Donna Santa Croce, fantastic individual, beautiful human being. I believe she's still with Comcast, very successful there on her sales team. And she was just phenomenal. And I hope anybody who's listening who worked with us at that time and worked with Donna would agree that she would go all out. It made it terrible for everybody else. Like you'd get certain dispatches and you're like, oh my God. Sometimes you'd even hang up. But there was a time, believe it or not, I remember calling dispatch and being on hold for well over an hour. And then finally when they would answer, they'd hang up. Yeah. And you couldn't leave the job. And you would have, you think about it, guys, it was you were getting like 2 jobs per hour. You know what I mean? Like maybe, because it was a point system. It really depended on the points, like a 6-point job. And I believed it was something like every point is 15 minutes. I believe. I think that's how it goes. It's been a while. So you were on hold. Literally with a flip phone and trying to get through to dispatch so that you could close out the job, give them the equipment number, and you could move on. There were guys that would leave and go to their next job to kind of make up some of the time. But unfortunately, the equipment would be bad. So then they would have to go back again. It was a terrible system. And how anybody got through that is beyond me. But, well, Comcast, like, they reinvented the technician and the idea of the customer health a self-install kit. So now, the technician really is doing like wiring on the outside and maybe some wiring on the inside. But you can go into any store and you can buy the equipment and pretty much do it yourself. But back then, like a lot of it was over the phone. But at least you had help. So the point I'm trying to make here is, when I was there as a supervisor, it came to a point where the employees felt that my guys, our people, my employees, my staff, everyone's staff, everybody in the building is saying, hey, listen, you guys are asking us to do more and more and more, which I agree. We're doing more ourselves. We're entering things in the computer now. Like we're scanning boxes. Like we're doing a lot of dispatches work, including the home health check with the DSAM meter. Like all of these things take time, but yet you're not giving us any more time. So you're adding to our job, but not giving us the time to do the things that you're asking us to do. So that went on for a while. Deaf ears, and then to the point where, of course, now people have stopped talking about union. And I will tell you, if anybody's out there and you work for a company, and employees, and if you hear union, it's already too late. It's like I tell people the analogy, and I apologize for the analogy, but if you see one cockroach in your house, I promise you there is not one cockroach in your house. There are many cockroaches in your house. So that first time that you hear the word union, there is a union present. And you know what? Again, I think if you come to that point that you feel that your employer is not listening to you, like you've gone through all the channels, and they did. Every single one of them did. Yes, they did. And they chiefed their complaints. They made them vocal. There were a lot of guys that were standing up and saying things. It's not easy. It's not easy being in a room of your peers. 75 guys in a room, and you're standing up there and you're speaking for what you think is fair and what you think is right. That's not easy. That's tough, man. And you're jeopardizing things, and you don't want people to blackball you, and you don't want to be, the guy, the one, right? But somebody's got to say something, and hats off to those guys, because those are the guys. Those are the game changers, man. Those are the guys that make the difference. But anyway, long story short, these guys, they stood up and they said something, and nobody was hearing what they were saying. So they felt the need that they needed a union. And that was, for me, that was really the beginning of the end for my career at Comcast. I watched guys. It actually, it was funny because it went from a situation where I could communicate. We had Nextels. I remember we had Nextels, and we could, at any time, I could bleep, I could Nextel a guy, hey, checking in on you, what's going on? We obviously checking on each other, making sure everybody gets off the road at the same time. But I remember then we switched everything to the iPhone, and I remember being in a meeting, and I'll say it right out there, and you know what? I don't care who listens. This douchebag, fucking Kevin Rife, yeah, you, boy, he's on my list. I never really like to or ever want to call anybody out, but I'll tell you right now, that's one guy that I wouldn't mind putting some boxing gloves on and getting in a ring with, but that's a story for another day, and we can get into that. I even get fired up even bringing up his name, but anyway, so this whole union thing pops its head up, and now people are talking about a union, and really the momentum of this thing just really it took a mind of its own. Like, you really didn't see it coming, but before we knew it, this guy Kevin Rife shows up, and you know what, guys? No joke. Like, he had me hook, line, and sinker. Right? This guy, he's got the hair. Do me a favor. If you enjoy the podcast, Google him, Kevin Rife, because he's gonna come up. He's Comcast, Kevin Rife. You're gonna see he's got the hair. He's got the wing hair, side to side. Total Guido. You know what I mean? Total Guido. He thinks he's like Italian, but I don't even know what he is. What is Rife? I don't even know what that is. I don't even give a shit what it is. But anyway, this guy comes in. Somehow, when we were broken up into regions, I apologize if I'm getting a little excited, but I'm a little passionate about this conversation. We were regions at the time. We were the southern region and the northern region. He was in the northern region, and we were in the southern region, and we were very successful. We did very well. Bruce Bjorkman, successful, wonderful leadership, man. I would follow these people anywhere. Really had some great times with them, great conversations, and I learned a lot. But anyway, the northern influence kind of took over, only because there was a particular promotion or movement that had happened. So now this guy Kevin Rife comes down to the south, and he says, "Hey, we're gonna run the south the way we run the north." So he comes in with this whole new idealism. He's gonna change things, and I tell you what, man, it was like watching, and I'm not afraid to admit it. It was like watching Obama. When Obama used to speak, guys, I won't deny it. When Obama would speak, I was mesmerized. I really was, man. The guy could talk, and even to this day, he starts talking, and I'm like mesmerized by the way he speaks. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like I'm listening to a reverend. You know what I mean? And when he's talking about the country, if you guys go back and look at some of the State of the Unions, and some of the runs he would go on, man, he would get me so fired up and excited for the country. You know what I mean? Like, here we are. Here we have a black president, and he's got a message that we can do this together. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. I believed it hook, line, and sinker. And this guy, Kevin Rife, same thing, man. He comes in. We can do this together. We're going to do this together. Things are going to get better. It's going to get great. It's going to get great. And this is the message he's sending out to everybody, man. And I was so excited. I'm like, here it is. Here's the solution. We have a way. We're going to make it. You know what I mean? Well, it turns out everything he was saying was bullshit. You know what I mean? Just another corporate monkey. Delivering a message from his boss. You know what I mean? He's the middleman. Comes down. Hey, this is how. Hey, this is how it is. And you know what? Everybody's got to stand there and look at him in the face and listen to all this bullshit. So, long story short, it never worked out. I remember being in rooms. So him and I, like, just water and oil, like, immediately never got along. And the reason we didn't get along is because what he was in front of people in an audience was not who he was in an office or in a conference room amongst the supervisors and the managers. He was a different person. So he put on the Rife show in front of all of the employees, and then he would go into this room with us, and then we would sit in this room. And this is without exaggeration, guys. They'd get away with it because they were saying they were feeding us. But we'd sit in these rooms for like 6 hours, 7 hours straight. And we would have these binders. Right? And in the binders, you would open them up, and it would be a picture of the employee and like information about them. You know what I mean? And what we would do is he would open up the book. So makes me crazy when I think about it. It reminds me why I left. And he would open up the binder, and he would go down the list, and then he would actually look at us and be like, okay, who's on our side and who's on their side? And that's what he wants. So we're in a room, right? We're in a room. Like, I'm a supervisor. I'm a leader. You know what I mean? I'm the guy who's supposed to be in the works with my people. out in the field, making sure that they're doing good work, making sure that they're being safe, making sure that their customer interactions are fantastic. No, instead I'm sitting in a room, right? Looking at a binder, pictures of people, and profiling employees, and letting him know whether or not. So we would go team to team. So now I got to tell him if I think, hey, let's this XYZ. Yeah, I believe he may be union. XYZ. Oh, I believe she may be on our side. Okay, how about blah blah blah. Well, last time they were this, and I think they changed to this side. So, and then we would do this like for hours, right? And then at the end, of course, we would calculate it and put it up on the projector that, we have, so many pro-union, so many, no union, and we have so many, kind of middles, and we'd have to persuade the middles to pick a side. You know what I mean? And again, there's all these rules and all these laws, and they're like, hey, listen, you can't say this and you can't do that. And you know what? It's all fucking bullshit. It's all bullshit. It's all what they want. And you know what? If you wanted to keep your job, you did what they said. And it was, you tried to say whatever you could say. You tried to find out whatever you could try to find out. But in the meanwhile, as a supervisor, now what am I doing? Am I taking my good employees and I'm mining them for information so that I can go back and rat them out and make them the rats? Like, what am I doing? Like, what is this? Like, this isn't my job. My job is to lead people. My job is to make to sell a product, to deliver a product to a customer that they're going to enjoy, that's going to bring value to their life. Not sit in a room and segregate people based on what they believe is good for them and their family. Joe, you asked me, and that's the answer. That's the reason why I left. That's the reason why I left. I really couldn't be a part of that. It was funny that we went through that process there, and they went to a vote. And I remember telling my guys, and you guys can attest to it if you want. I remember telling my guys, hey, listen, here's the deal. You guys are going to go vote. You're going to go vote. If you vote for the union, you got the union. There's no going back. If you don't vote the union in, the company is saying that they're going to give you an opportunity. They heard you. The company's saying that they heard you and that they're going to make these changes and implement these changes so that your quality of life is a little better. And that you don't have to and that you don't have to get a union. You don't need somebody to represent you. All right? So I'm telling my guys this. I'm saying, listen, hey, they heard you. I'm like, worst case scenario, guys. If they don't keep their word in 6 months, you get another opportunity to vote the union in. And at that point, I'd give them the vote. You know what I'm saying? And my guys bought into that idea. They did. I know they did. I know that my guys, the guys that were working with me and believed in me and my message and what I was telling them, they took that and they voted. And they voted, and maybe they voted contrary to what they thought was best for their family, and maybe based it on my word to them that the company was going to do good by them. Maybe they didn't. Maybe they did it completely solely on their idea. But to me, I have to assume that I had some influence in that, and I influenced them not to vote the union in. And do you think things changed? Do you think things changed? Do you think that the company heard them and said, "Hey, listen, we dodged a bullet here. There was going to be a union getting in here, and now there isn't going to be a union getting in here." You think they might have? No, they didn't. And it was the same shit, a different day. Now the worst part was, it became the supervisor's problem. It became management's problem. Now we had to figure out a way to convince these people, these employees, that they don't want a union, but yet you're not changing any of the policies and the procedures that you've already implemented, but you're asking us to do what? Smoke and mirrors? Lie to these people? And that's exactly what they did. They asked me to lie. They asked me to lie. My relationship with Rife was short. I ended up going out real quick I had a minor shoulder surgery that I had done, and in that time, Rife took the opportunity, knowing the influence that I had in Fairhaven, He relocated me to Plymouth, Massachusetts. Was I happy about going over there? No. It had been it was a Adelphia acquisition. It was an Adelphia cable company, kind of like AT&T and Comcast taking over Media One. Comcast had bought out Adelphia, so they were asking me to go over there and literally build a team, take what was there, see what I could build, and that's exactly what I did. I took the challenge. I went there, and I was fortunate enough to work. Now, my manager was no longer Arlene. I was in a different FMA. I was working with John Mawhinney. And the crazy thing about John Mawhinney was John was with me when I went for New High. I mentioned earlier in the episode, I went to Beverly for new hire training, and John was in that class with me. We were equals. And John kind of went in a different direction than I did. I was really into the technical end of it. I really didn't want to get into the management end of it. And even to this day, I regret becoming a supervisor. I would have never become. It's funny. A lot of guys are going to be hearing this, going, "Wow, no shit." I would have never become a supervisor. I did not. My aspirations were not to be a supervisor. I really wanted to be a network tech. I wanted a bucket truck. I wanted to be working out on the lines. That was my whole goal. That's what I wanted. But I was convinced otherwise. I was convinced that I should have been a supervisor. And again, another situation where I allowed someone to take to make me make a decision or direct me in a different decision that I was planning on going. But I did it anyway, and I don't regret it. But I did it. I took the job. It was funny because I was slotted for one supervisor job, and I didn't get it, and was quite disappointed about it, and but I did get the next one. But again, it was all a plan. You know how they work that stuff out. But I got it. But anyway, I was in Plymouth working with John Mawhinney. I had built a team. Plymouth was is a beautiful place. I mean, if you've ever been to Plymouth, Massachusetts, guys, get out there. It's just a gorgeous place, especially in the summertime. The restaurants, seafood, the grill, like a lot of pier restaurants. Get down there and check it out. But that's where I was working, and I loved it. I had a great team of guys. They were really excited. It was easy because they had nothing with Adelphia, and then here comes Comcast, and we're throwing new uniforms at them, we're throwing new vehicles at them, we're throwing new tools at them. So for them, I remember that feeling when we got taken over by Comcast with Media One or AT&T. Excuse me, and how exciting that was, man! Getting all that stuff, bags, you name it. It was very, very exciting. And I did that, and I worked in Plymouth. And again, the whole union thing is still going on. You know what I mean? Like, again, they had the vote, it didn't go through, but now the union's still around. And I remember John Mawhinney, and you know what? Whatever. I mean, I would never say anything negative about John Mawhinney. But for whatever reason, him as a manager, it wasn't working out. Like it didn't work out, and it didn't work out, and it doesn't work out for everybody. And again, a lot of it has to do with, you come into an FMA that somebody else was managing, and now they're asking you to take over, and sometimes it's an adjustment for people, and sometimes you fit, sometimes you don't. And unfortunately, this is one of those times it didn't fit. And John is just a wonderful, wonderful person, family guy, and they kind of moved him out. They kind of pushed him out the door and said, "Hey, you're gonna be a supervisor on the Cape," and they did. They pushed him. Kevin Reif pushed him right out the door and made him go work on Cape Cod. But that had happened. Now, mind you, we have an FMA. Myself, I'm a supervisor with a couple of other supervisors, and we we're in a room, and he comes in the room, and I think it was 4 or 5 of us. And he comes in the room and he's like, well, listen, this is how it's going to go down. Okay, so that's how we start the conversation. This is how it's going to go down. Mawhinney is taking a position as a supervisor, and we are going to tell the employees that this was a decision that he had decided he wanted to do, and this was a move that he wanted to make. Of course, we all knew that was not the case. The case was that he got pushed out. So he was asking or telling us to lie, to tell people that this wasn't a move that was forced on him, that it was more of a decision that he would make. I mean, who in their right mind is going to believe that I'm going to go from being a manager to being a supervisor? But somehow you want me to lie about that, and that was really the straw that broke the camel's back. And I knew at that point that I no longer wanted to be a part of it. Because I will do pretty much anything for you. I believe in the message. Even the company I work with now, I have an amazing manager. I have a manager who supports my ideas, who appreciates my thoughts and my conversation, and I am so grateful for that. I really, really am grateful for that because I remember, having situations like this where that wasn't the case. You've got people that come in with an agenda, who answer to people and make commitments and promises to people, and then come down and the only way they do that is by riding, the employees to get there. So, it is what it is. Me personally, I don't manage that way. I don't know what that's like. So I really struggled. I struggled with that a lot. It bothered me. And then shortly after that, we had another meeting. And it was all of us. I remember it being all of us. It was all the supervisors. It was from the area. I mean, there was probably 20 people in the room. I remember HR was in there, and I was literally directly across from Kevin Rife. He was at the head of the table. I was all the way at the other end. I had a couple of supervisors to my left and to my right. Brian, Derek, I think, family guys, and. This whole rhetoric, he starts this whole rhetoric about the union and this and that and the other thing. And, at this point, I got to be honest with you, we had been dealing with the union for a couple of years. And it really took a lot out of me. It took a lot out of everybody. And it really created a lot of rifts where there were really great relationships. And, again, so mind you, I'm telling you, this is a couple of years in. And here we're in this room, and Kevin Rife looks up at all of us and says, all right. Why do we think the union wants to get in here? I swear to you, that was the question that he asked us. Why do we think the union wants to get? Dude, we've been at this for like 2 years. We've been at this for like 2 years. We've been trying to talk to people, try to just trying to negotiate conversation with people. It got to the point where you couldn't talk to people anymore. And if you said this and if you said that, and I spent more time in union training than anything else. I should have been working on my career and taking leadership classes. Instead, I was too busy taking union classes, just to try to figure out how to. And really, they were like how to manipulate people into believing your ideas and what you're saying. And again, it was just like mind poison. But anyway, I got through all that, and we're in this room, and he asks that question: why do we think the union wants to get in here? And I looked at him straight in the face, and now, mind you, I'm across the table. Like, this is a big table. Like I said, if there isn't 24 people, 26 people sitting at this table, I looked at him straight in the face. I said, well, quite honestly, they don't believe what you're saying. I said, you're like a used car salesman. I said, and you're like the big bad wolf. Every time you come down, every time you show up, you got some new initiative. You got some more work for these guys to do. That's why. Well, it was pretty fair to say that was pretty much my death sentence. That was pretty much my resignation at that point. I remember Lisa Walsh, she was the HR director. She stood up and she looked at me. She said, Bobby, it's very courageous of you to say that. And I said, well, that's how I feel. And then I looked back at, to my left and to my right at the supervisors that I had just finished having these conversations with, who all felt the same way that I did. We're all in this together, guys. We, you know what I mean? Solidarity. You know what I mean? We are together. We are supervisors. We're leaders. We look out for me. I look out for you. And when I looked back and I looked at all of them, they literally crouched down in their chairs like cowards. Cowards. Literally cowards. It was at that moment, guys. I keep telling you these moments in your life where you learn certain things. That was a very that was a very, very pivotal moment in my life when I realized that, people have your back until you need them to have your back. And that was one of those situations where if had those guys just either acknowledged or stood up or did something to, I don't know, just kind of confirm what I was saying, or just, commit to that. And it didn't. And I knew that was it. I knew that was the end. And at that point, my career, from there, came to a very slow end. It wasn't immediate. They ended up wanting to take me out of Plymouth again and relocate me to another FMA and to go do another rebuild. And I was playing along, and then they sent me the roster of the technicians that they were going to be assigning to me out in Stoughton. And it really was like every misfit you could find. Sorry, guys, I don't mean to be offensive to anyone, but you got good employees, you got bad employees, and they gave me literally a roster of just terrible employees, of people that would just problems, that didn't do well, that were just constant issues, people that they couldn't fire, for whatever reasons. One guy that fell off a ladder and broke both his ankles. You kind of own this guy for the rest of his life, so they can't fire him. So what do? They're sending these people to me, and I knew that was Kevin Rife, and that was his way of just pretty much showing me where the door was. And you know what? And I accepted. I accepted the door, and I left, and I wrote my letter of resignation. And I was very cordial about it. I explained to to Lisa what my situation was, what had taken place, how I felt, and really in how I was. I would say I was robbed. You know what I mean? I was robbed. I really enjoyed that job. I enjoyed the people I was working with, and till this day I have great relationships with these people. And I wish that I could still be a part of that, and that culture and what it used to be, but it isn't that anymore. So for me, I'm where I am today. If you told me that I had to go through that to get to where I am today, I would have done it. I'd do it again, and I wouldn't change a single thing, because quite honestly, where I am now, I've landed. I can be who I am. I don't have to pretend to be something else. I manage a great group of people that are committed and love doing what they're doing. Which is awesome for me. So, hey, listen, I have no ill will towards Comcast or those people, but I do have ill will towards Kevin Rife, and I'll put it out there. If you want to box me, Kevin Rife, I would love to do that. I'd love to take you in the ring and beat the living snot out of you, and just do to you now what I would have loved have done to you back then. So with that said, we can move on, and I'll leave that in the past. But I know, Joe made a request in the comments about Comcast and why I had left the company after 15 years of being there. And really, it was really the management change. And if it hadn't been for that management change, who knows? I might still be there today. But I'll be honest with you guys, where I am today, I explained to you earlier in the episode, the example of the garage and clearing the clutter out and finding that special place. I found it. I am there. I have a great job. I can pay my bills. I sleep at night. I don't worry like I used to. The whole Comcast thing, guys, that's just like a real synopsis of my time there. I could get into some detail, and there are a lot of funny stories about my career at Comcast. If you don't work anywhere 15 years without having stories to tell, you know what I mean? But so that's that. That was my career at Comcast. I hope I didn't bore anybody with that, but that was really the reason, and the flow of that time there, of that time period there. But just to kind of move on here a little bit, guys, and just kind of get into some other stuff. I was looking at just doing something different. You know what I mean? And I come across this thing where I think I like to do on the show, and I'm going to call it the moral poll, right? So what I'm going to do is I'll pose the question to you guys real quick, and then I'll give you a second to think about it, and then I'll tell you what the populace says, and I'll give you both sides. The question kind of poses what you would do. So in this case, the moral poll is that you are a doctor at a top hospital. You have 6 gravely ill patients, 5 of whom are in urgent need of organ transplants. You can't save them, though, because there is no available organs that can be used to save their lives. The 6th patient, however, will die without a particular medicine. If she or he dies, you will be able to save the other 5 patients by using the organs of patient 6, who is an organ donor. What do you do? Right? What do you do? So you got 6 patients, 5 need organs, 1 is ill, needs medication. If that one dies, you can take the organs from that one and save 5 people. So in essence here, 1 person's life to save 5 people. What do you do? For me, I'll tell you what I mean, personally for me, I think that I'm saving patient 6. I think if I have the ability to save this patient, rightfully so, I have to do that. I couldn't live with I guess I have to say this out loud. I could live with myself knowing that I saved a life rather than took a life, if that makes sense. And in my defense, 72 38.7 thousand, or 35% of people are going to keep patient 6 comfortable, but do not give him the medical care that could save his life in order to save our patients. And I know you too, 132,000 or 65% save patient 6 and let the other 5 die. It's unfortunate, but it's not your call to make, right? I mean, that's pretty much it. I thought that was really cool. Really puts you in one of those perspectives to think about, really morally, what do you do in a situation like that? You can save 5 lives, but you have to live knowing that you took one. I struggle with that, you know what I mean? But I think that I do the right thing. And I think hey, you know what? I say that's the right thing for me, and it doesn't mean that's just the right thing for you. And speaking on that note, too, is the other day on the news, there was a young boy who needed a kidney. And I think he was at school, probably 7 years old. How about 7, 8 years old? We'll say that. And they were interviewing the kid, and the kid was really running around, happy-go-lucky. And I'll be honest with you, I've always, thought about donating a kidney. You know what I mean? If I could actually save someone's life, I mean, how amazing that would be. But I would always love to know, or I hope this doesn't make me a bad person, but I would love to know that if I'm donating this kidney, it'd be something like that. Like be able to save this little boy and have him, move on and save his life. But immediately, because I'm thinking about donating, and then all of a sudden I say to myself, gee, what if I'm not a match with this kid, right? Then what happens? So I was willing to give, little Timmy my kidney, and, I'm already at the hospital. They already did the blood test, and they kind of committed me to it. And then all of a sudden the woman comes in and says, hey, listen, you're not a match for Timmy, but you're a match for Joe, And I said, well, who's Joe? Well, Joe's he's a 40-year-old guy, and, no. Gee, not that I have anything against Joe, but, I was kind of looking to see if I could save Timmy. You know what I mean? And what do you do at that point? Is it okay to walk away? I mean, does that make you a bad person? Right? Is that crazy for me to think that? You know what I mean? Like I'm willing to give you my kidney, but I'm not willing to give you my kidney. You know what I mean? I can't be the only one that thinks like that. But it's just I hate to be in that position. And in the meanwhile, poor Timmy, he doesn't get what he needs. You know what I mean? But I don't know. Does it mean if I give Joe a kidney, that means that Timmy gets a kidney? I guess if that's the case, then yeah, I'll do it, because Timmy's getting the kidney he needs, and ultimately, regardless if it's mine or not, I know that I had influence in him getting a kidney, right? That's a tough one. So again, those are kind of questions I pose out to you, and maybe you can ponder. And figure out what works for you. But that's kind of the crazy shit that goes through my brain. Another thing I was reading also is that I should give you guys recommendations. It says that I should offer recommendations to my audience. And, I love TV, I love movies, I love music. And I just, binge watching is like a really big deal right now, and a lot of people are doing it. We're already an hour and 7 minutes into the show, so I kind of just want to segue. There was so many things I wanted to talk about today too, and I just kind of went on that Comcast rant. I'm sorry. No, it's all right. We'll make more at episode 8. But recommendations, guys. If you haven't watched it already, I know, with Game of Thrones being so popular and people really liking that kind of stuff. One of these movies with great special effects, beautiful people in it. The sex is a little bit of everything for everybody. If you haven't had a chance to watch it yet, it's on HBO. It's still available. It's on HBO Demand. It's only 2 seasons, a total of 22 episodes. The name of the series is Rome. Rome, and it's on HBO. It was released in 2005 and 2007. Just to give you a quick synopsis, a down-to-earth account of the lives of both illustrious and ordinary Romans, set in the last days of the Roman Republic. Kevin McKidd from Grey's Anatomy. He's in that. He plays Aurelius, a fantastic character. But you know him from Grey's Anatomy. And then Ray Stevenson, he was in The Transporter, Star Wars, Thor, Dark World, wicked famous. You'll know him as soon as you see him. He's in it as well, and he kind of plays the backup character, supporting actor to Kevin McKidd, and they are together. They're absolutely phenomenal. It really is, and it's a journey of these two guys through the Empire of Rome, and it really covers even if you're not a history buff and into that stuff, it really stayed true to the actual story that we all know. But yet that kind of added in these characters and these different twists throughout the series that were just phenomenal. Beautiful people in it, a lot of sex, and just fantastic editing, segmented. It was perfect. Like, so if you guys are looking for a binge, that is definitely the one. I would do that this weekend. That's a great one. And then the other one would be, I don't know if you guys have seen this on Amazon. It's The Boys, and that is just fantastic as well. The wife was watching it, and I was kind of getting a contact high. She was watching it on her iPad, and I found myself just watching more and more and more. And it really, when I realized what it was, this kind of this alter universe where superheroes are all over the place, and and I don't want to spoil it for anybody, but the whole premise of it, including like the character Homelander, who's kind of like Superman. They kind of got a character like Aquaman. There's a kind of got an Aqua guy. But the whole basis of it, there's a whole base behind it, and it's just phenomenal. And we just got through the first season, maybe 2 seasons, I want to say, and I think third season's coming out. But if you guys have an opportunity to watch that, don't miss out on that. Absolutely fantastic. And I'm sure if you guys agree, comment, let me know. But it is absolutely fantastic. So enough of that. I just wanted to real quick talk about two things. I know that I had posted something on my Instagram, and I wanted to share it with you guys. And I know I mentioned Beto, and I don't. This isn't a political show. It just I always like to make people aware of what's out there, and I kind of gave him some airtime on my last podcast, and I came across this, and maybe you've already seen it, maybe you haven't, but I to hear it rather than see it. I saw it, and then I got to hear it, and to hear it, it's just so much better, and I want you guys to enjoy it. So it's a small clip. I'm going to run it right through, and then we can comment after.
I was one of the gun-owning Americans that heard your speech and heard what you had to say regarding hell yes, we're going to take your AR-15s and your AR. And
Let's be respectful. Let's be respectful.
Well, I am here to say hell no, you're not. So with that, I would like to know how you intend to legislate evil, because it is not the gun, it is the heart of the man that does that. We all have stories. Excuse me.
Let's allow her to finish, please. We
can all have these stories. We all have the experiences. I was living in Aurora during Columbine. I had just recently moved when the Aurora shootings happened, yet I have very close ties here. Yet all of those people were there defenseless. They had no way to defend themselves against a crazed shooter. So I want to know how you intend to legislate the hearts of men and leave American citizens like myself, American mothers. I have 4 children. I'm 5'0", 100 pounds. Cannot really defend myself with a fist.
It's okay. Let's allow her to finish.
I don't have my AR-15 today. I have my Glock. Well, you shouldn't have it. Don't worry, sir. I have your back. Anyway, I want to know how you're going to legislate that, because a criminal, by defense, breaks the law. So all you're going to do is restrict law-abiding citizens like myself. We all know that you, sir, have a criminal history, and I understand that burglars do not like armed defense.
It's okay.
Yes, sir. Burglars do not like armed defense, yet that is a right that we have that shall not be infringed in America.
Well, there you have it. Who knew he was a criminal? Who knew he had a criminal past? For all the reasons, man. You know what? I only play that because it was a woman. If you saw the video, it was literally one woman, and she was surrounded by all these the Beto supporters. Like, she was by herself. I mean, I'm sure she had somebody there with her, but she was clearly outnumbered. And she still stood up there, and she still got up, and she still said what she had to say. And I'm telling you, that's balls like the size of balls in a gorilla. And hats off to you, woman. I don't know where you are or who you are, but that's what we need in this world. We need people to stand up, and regardless of what it is you believe in, like, speak your voice and tell it like it is. Like, we just can't lay down and die. I mean, literally, we just cannot lay down and die. We can't. We can't do it. If you lay down and die, it's over. It's over. It is. It really is. It's over. So you tell me what you guys want to do. You tell me how you feel. Let me know. Make a comment. Are we going to continue to just let these people say whatever the hell they want to say on these platforms? I mean, guys, we're talking about like the Democratic debate, and this guy's on TV saying he's going to come and take what's yours. So, when people fight back like that and they say something, it doesn't matter what side you're on. I'm just glad to see that somebody saying something. Boy, she put him in his place, boy. That was good. That was good. And then, finally, I just, want to just give everybody an update on Giselle Correa, the mayor. This is something that's been going on since the beginning of the podcast, so I feel like I got to follow through with this. So I came across this clip, and I want to share it with you guys. Again, another short clip. I'm going to let this one play through, let you listen to it. And this is just really quick. This is like news flash, all right? I'm just going to give you a quick flash on this, and then you guys, and then I'll come back.
Let's get on to November 5th. Let's win big. Let's make it happen.
In front of his supporters, Giselle Correa is setting his sights on November's general election after a second-place finish in Tuesday's primary. Moving forward, he won't only face his opponent Paul Coogan, but federal extortion charges.
If I could have this trial next week, I would.
Correa is accused of pocketing nearly $600,000 in bribes by soliciting money from marijuana businesses looking to open up in the city.
There's no proof, there's no evidence, and we're going to win the trial and we'll win the election.
He says the 11 days since the charges dropped have been difficult.
If you've been through death in your family or you've been through disease, you know what I'm talking about. That kind of pain, that kind of loss, that kind of emptiness. That's what it's like.
Just last week, City Council voted to remove Correa from office. He has refused to step down and is now looking forward to facing Coogan in November.
I'm not going to sit here and tell you we're out of this thing, because we're not. We're not out of this thing. There's a lot of things that can happen. Mano y mano, one-on-one, me and Mr. Coogan. That's what I'm talking about.
Well, there you have it. There you have it. Mano y mano. Mano y mano. Guys, I have no idea how that's going to turn out. I'm real curious to see how it's going to turn out. I can't imagine how it's going to turn out, but the idea that this guy keeps getting voted in, Steve, you're absolutely right. Due process, everybody's, innocent until proven guilty. I'm going to let this play out, guys. I'm going to refrain from calling him no, he's still a douchebag. I'm not going to refrain from calling him. He's a douchebag, and we all know he's knee deep in this shit. So we're going to play along. I guess they can't get him out. They're gonna keep doing this, and he'll run it until as far as he can. And obviously he's going to be around until November unless the committee can get him out. The city council can get him out. We'll see. I don't know, but I mean, it's amazing to me that anybody could do that. He's literally in handcuffs, this guy. And still be in a position where he can run the city, I guess. You know what I mean? I don't know. It is what it is. What are you going to do? So at this point, you just hope that maybe Coogan can get the vote, and maybe the city can get some traction, and things can get a little better there. So that's pretty much the episode, you guys. I hope you enjoyed it. A lot of information there, a little personal stuff that I shared with you. Typically I don't like to talk or mention people's names, especially if it's in a negative fashion. But in this case, you can obviously tell that I don't really care in this case, because you always when someone takes something from you that you've worked very, very hard to maintain. It leaves that bitter taste in your mouth. But again, I can't complain, because if he hadn't done what he did, then I wouldn't gone. I mean, there's so much, guys, that came after that in my life. I've had the opportunity to work for some really great people and just meet great people that I still communicate with today. And in the position I am today is amazing because all of those people that I've come in contact with along the way, I utilize and work with daily, vendors and just people that have just certain talents and technical abilities, and I'm able to tap into that. Not to mention, there's like a vast array of contacts across the country, across the world. There are people, Dimitri out in Russia, one of my contacts, one of my engineers from Intelligrated. So again, it's the journey. It's a journey we all take. It's a journey we all go on. And I'm glad that I get to come on here and share it with you. So, with that said, I just want to again thank everybody for being a part of this. We are growing. The growth is exponential. I know I mentioned it before. Today we applied and submitted for iHeartRadio. So I mean, to be honest with you, I didn't even realize I wasn't on that platform, and I really want to get there. The opportunity for the growth of capacity of listeners is substantial, and I think anything I can do to get the show out there, to get people to listen, I think is paramount. So I'm going to continue to do that. I'm going to continue to work on that. And get the show out there, and I'm working on a couple of things in the background here. I got a couple of guests that I think I got lined up. I'm just kind of if anybody does this podcast thing, you realize it's very difficult to schedule someone at a particular time. Especially if someone's local, you can kind of get them to your house. But if somebody is across the country, trying to figure out, especially if they're in a different time zone, figuring out when it works. Again, I mentioned to you guys before, I have a full-time job. I have a full-time family. So I really try to make the time for the show, and I always want to make sure that there's substance and commit to the show, and not just me getting behind the microphone and just blabbing away. And that's what drives me to really try to get substance for the show, and things are going to keep you interested and help you commit to the show every day. You know what I mean? When you're driving in, especially, Joe on Sunday, man, I know you want to listen. And this one's for you. I appreciate it. And then on Monday, Monday seems to be our busiest day. We get our most listens on Mondays, which is fantastic. I like to think that people are looking forward to the show. Maybe we're on your drive-in in the morning. So if that's the case, happy Monday to you. Friday's right around the corner. Just hang in there. And for everybody else, thank you. Thank you, Twitter. Everybody on Twitter, you guys are fantastic. You guys are amazing. I really appreciate it. Drama City Productions, the information there, and the guy, it's funny because these guys they're funny. They're talking about stuff and that's relevant though, but they make jokes about it. But it really is important stuff. When you're in this podcast world, people are trying to mooch everywhere. They're trying to attach to the show. They're trying to get you some kind of revenue out of what you're doing. And honestly, I know I've mentioned it to you guys in the past. I'm not in it for the money. This is something that's passionate to me and gives me the opportunity to share with you guys, and I wanted to do that, and I want to continue to do that, and I don't want to do it because of money. But listening to these guys through the Twitter and reading the things that I'm reading, you really see that it's relevant out there. And again, like I use the analogy, the biggest whale in the ocean has 100 suckerfish, you know what I mean? Just sitting there, just feeding off it, you know what I mean? Like and they don't do anything on their own. They completely depend on the whale. And if anything, I'm humbled that there are people out there that are trying to attach to the show, and that's great. But honestly, this is where I want to be. I don't want to be swayed or committed in any one direction. I want to be able to speak about what I want to speak about and share that with you. So with that said, I mean that's pretty much the episode here, guys. I'm glad I was able to get that out. I'm sure I'll have a couple of questions. It'll be a lot of surprise people out there. Just recently, Bob Couto, shout out to you, Bob. Recently followed on Facebook. A friend of the show. I appreciate it, man. It's been a couple of years since him and I have spoken. But he's a great individual, funny guy. We had a lot of great times together, man. You talk about being in the trenches with somebody and working side by side with people and just looking out for one another. He's one of those guys. If you needed somebody to watch your back, he always had your back. He'd never turn your back on you, and I always appreciated that. So shout out to you, Bob. So with that said, guys, we're gonna end it here. Once again, I just want to say, hit us up on Twitter, hit us up on Instagram, please, Facebook. Submit your comments, subscribe to the show. Please tell your friends, please tell your family, tell your friends' family, your enemies, tell everybody. You know what I mean? Like, even if they're your enemies, be like, hey, check this out. Just share it. The only way I can continue to do this is if you guys are listening. And at the rate we're going, I'm hoping that I'll be here for a long time, and we're gonna grow together. We'll bring in some other personalities, some other content, and the show is only gonna get better and better. So until next time, guys, I hope that I'm able to just shine a little light on you, make you think a little bit, and look forward to the next one, because I'm always looking forward to the next one. I always can't wait to get behind the microphone I just again, like I said, I try to be cautious because I want it to be relevant. I want you to enjoy it, and I want it to be your prime rib. And for the vegans out there, I want it to be your turkey burger. So enjoy. Well, would it be? If you're a vegan, you don't eat turkey either, right? So okay, vegetarians, would you get a turkey? No, you wouldn't. No, I guess. Gee, I guess the turkey burger's out. So guys, if you guys listen, vegetarians, you get a bean burger. All right, I give you a big old bean burger. With whatever you want for condiments. So thanks again, guys. I really appreciate it. And with all that, I'm signing out. And always remember, guys, all roads end here.